Hello, beautiful moms and entrepreneurs. My name is Charisse Walker, and I'm your host of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. This is a place where we come together to learn, grow, and inspire. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Hello, Unbreakable Mompreneurs. My name is Charisse Walker, and I am your host. And today I'm here with Blake Lefkoe. And I am so excited for her to be on. Personally, I'm dealing with some things that she's going to be talking about, and I think a lot of other people are as well. And so if you're one of those listeners that feel stuck and you're not quite sure how to get out of it, and as you know, the whole purpose of my podcast is to make sure that we help you and women get unstuck and pursue their passion, their purpose, and find joy. So without further ado, Blake, why don't you introduce yourself to us?
I'm Blake Lefkoe. I'm a mom. I'm an entrepreneur. I live on the North Shore of Oahu. I'm an avid water woman, and I've created a business around helping people eliminate the beliefs that keep them stuck in their negative behavioral and emotional patterns. And the thing that really lights me up is not just getting people out of their anxiety and past their procrastination and addiction and depression. I mean, that's amazing. But what I love is getting people to a place where it's like, now what?
Yeah.
Right? So like now that you've released yourself of these limitations, what do you want your life to look like? And what's standing in the way of you living it?
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is really exciting I think most people feel like life is supposed to look a certain way.
Right.
And so they live their life that way.
Mm-hmm.
And when they realize that there's options, then all of a sudden, for the first time, they're able to ask themselves, well, what do I want? How do I want to live my life? What gets me out of bed and fires me up? And that's really exciting.
See, and I love that because we so often have things that we don't even realize that are blocking us, right? And so when you're working with people, what do you find are the things that are holding them back?
So the way that I work is it's predominantly negative beliefs. The most common beliefs are I'm not good enough, nothing I do is good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving, my needs aren't important. I mean, there's so many. Those are kind of these basic core self-esteem beliefs. And then what we do is we find your pattern. So what are you doing that you don't want to be doing? What are you not doing that you want to be doing? What's the negative self-talk, the anxiety, the fear, the anger? What is it that's keeping you stuck? And then we find the specific beliefs contributing to that pattern. And as those beliefs go away, the pattern shifts organically. You don't have to do anything. There's no integration. There's no homework. There's no, I have to remember to switch my perspective or take 5 deep breaths. Like you literally nullify triggers and you're able to not just show up differently and respond differently and have different emotions, but what you attract also starts to show up and what you start to see changes, right? You start to notice things. When you have a belief, that's all you're looking for. That's all you see. And when that belief is gone, all of a sudden, it's like you take off these tinted sunglasses and you're like, oh my gosh, look at all this stuff that's been there. I had no idea.
I love that. So you mentioned that you use the Lefkoe method, but it's not yours. It was actually your dad's, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me what that is and the journey that brought you to where you are today.
So I grew up in a house with 2 parents that did this process and were very much in the personal growth. I don't know if you want to call it self-help. It felt like personal development. And that was what they were committed to. And my dad worked in the house. My mom worked in the house. That was what we talked about at the dinner table. I was just like enmeshed in it. And I was like, no, so not interested. This is not for me. I don't even want to hear about it. And I just went the other route and I became a complete hedonist. And I lived a very fun life. But one day I woke up in my, I don't know, mid to late 30s and I had a child. I was a single mom. I was bartending. And I was like, this is not sustainable. This is not fulfilling. I'm not happy in like toxic relationships, and I want more. This isn't it. And so I found my way back to it. Um, I was very fortunate that I had this tool available to me. Um, but yeah, I didn't just kind of like take the spoon as a child and dive right in. It definitely took me decades to get back to it, and it really helped me turn my life around. Um, I got sober, I got out of the restaurant industry after 30 years. I changed all the people in my life, my friends, my relationships. Everything just really started to shift. How I felt about myself, how I reacted, how I did things, how I prioritized time. My parenting changed tremendously. That was one of the first things that I really just noticed, was how I interacted with my son. And I kind of got to the point where I was like, wow, this is so powerful, and the change is so profound. Like, I want to help other people do this. And so I took all the trainings and eventually started my own business. And yeah, it's very gratifying and it's very fulfilling. I love what I do. I love my clients.
So what is the Lefkoe method? Because there's a lot of people that talk about self-help and their journey transformation, or their this or this. So what is different in your program than other people's? And I know it's probably hard to even compare. So what does yours entail, if you want to just talk about that?
So it's basically a step-by-step process. I was saying before how when you start, you find a pattern and you really kind of flush it out. What does that look like? How does that show up? Where, who, whatever. And once you get a very clear pattern, then you start to look for the beliefs under it. And then you typically kind of one belief at a time, you go through a series of steps. You find the source where it came from, typically early childhood, and you look for alternative interpretations. So I'm not good enough is one very valid way of interpreting the events of your dad constantly criticizing you. That makes a lot of sense. Any child would do that. But what are some other ways? And you kind of come up with a list. Well, it could have meant that I wasn't good enough for him, but that doesn't mean for anyone. It could mean that I was good enough. That's why he was spending the time criticizing me. It could mean that was the only way he knew how to parent, would have parented any child that, and it had nothing to do with me. And you kind of come up with a list and you realize that what you saw as the truth was just one possible interpretation. And the next step is realizing that you never actually saw your belief in the world. But as children, we think we saw it. We're like, no, I can see my dad criticizing me. You can see I'm not good enough. And through a series of questions, you get people to realize that, oh my gosh, no, I saw events and I gave those events a meaning. And then my life became consistent with that meaning, right? Once a belief is a belief, it's your truth. And that's what you're going to see. That's what you're going to feel. That's what you're going to notice. There's examples of it everywhere. But the only reason that is that way was because that was the meaning you gave to the events. And if you'd given those events a different meaning, you would have had a different feeling. And then you do that. And you imagine being a child and having an Auntie Blake or a guardian angel. You say, imagine giving these events this other meaning. It's guardian angels like, oh, it's really your dad because he doesn't have the parenting skills because of his parents and his trauma and his baggage, or, whatever interpretation really resonates the best with you. And then you give those events that meaning and the feeling shifts. And you're like, oh my God, just because I felt not good enough doesn't prove the belief is true. I give that event a different meaning and the feeling changes. And there's a few more steps, but you get, you realize you didn't see it. You realize just because you felt it, it doesn't believe it was true. There's other interpretations. And then there's kind of a couple other final steps that are hard to explain, but it's just a step-by-step process. And at some point it just shifts and you're like, you can see it on people. There's this second of like, they're lighter, their energy shifts, their face. Sometimes people cry, sometimes they smile, sometimes they laugh, sometimes they yawn a lot. And then they're just like, oh my gosh. And it's gone. And it's really neat because in the beginning, you have people say the belief, and some people feel it in a specific place in their body. Oh, I feel that in my heart, makes my throat tight, or that feels makes me nauseous or icky or sad. Some people can't even say it. It's so intense. And then at the end you have them say it and they're like, that just sounds ridiculous. And
Mm.
it's completely gone. And it stays gone. And it's just so powerful because there's so many things and there's so many great modalities.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that the problem with a lot of them is it's trying to kind of suppress it. So like affirmations, right? I am good enough. I am good enough. But if you feel not good enough under that, it's not, and logically we talk ourselves out of our beliefs all day long. Oh, I know that I'm lovable because my child loves me and my husband loves me and so I know that. But you have to talk yourself into it because on some level you feel not lovable. And this goes under all that and takes that away. So you don't have to talk yourself into it anymore because it's just not there.
I love that. And when you were telling that story, I thought about me in third grade. Um,
Mhm.
I was a ballerina and I was on point in third grade, right? And so there was four of us that are about the same age. We were in the highest class that this lady offered. They called it the professionals. Now, my realization is probably much different because I was in third grade and I remember dancing with these women that were in their what looked like 50s and 60s. I don't know. But I remember my dance teacher was just so mean. She was constantly criticizing me. She was just horrible. And so I had these horrible stomach pains and all these different things. And I realized it's like this pressure. I wasn't excited to go dance anymore. And it was years later, I went to one of her performances and she's like, Charisse, why did you quit? And I said, because you were mean and you just wouldn't stop nagging me. Nothing I could do was ever good enough. And so I just felt like I wasn't good. And she goes, Sharice, you were so good that that's why I kept harping on you.
Mhm.
And it's interesting because I think I was what sixth grade by that point, and I regretted the fact that I ever like quit my whole life. I love dance, and I'd probably be way thinner because of that, and way healthier and stronger. But it's interesting how one person can have such an impact on you and your life can change because of that. And I think that a lot of times I like that you do work to help people go back to where they were. Because I often think your perception is so different than the intention of somebody else. And when you can try to
Exactly.
bridge that gap, that no, you were not horrible. In fact, you're incredibly talented and you should have, or whatever. And so I think that that's the thing with limiting beliefs. And I also think that when you're called to do something or when you feel compelled that you're going to impact the world, kind of like what you're doing with what you do right now, that there is a force of evil that call it whatever you will. I'm going to call it Satan, but he doesn't want you to accomplish those things. And so you feel this like all your insecurities and everything comes into your head and you're not good enough and you don't and you shouldn't. And what I fight through is, but I'm supposed to reach people. I'm supposed to help them, inspire them, change their lives. And not me, but message and helping them do the work so that they can get to where they are. So having people like you on the show, I think is so incredibly important because I wish that more women would realize their potential and how they're getting stuck. And so what are some things that you have seen in your experience that have shaped women's behavior, specifically or men, it doesn't matter, to where it holds them back?
Well, I mean, most of our beliefs come from childhood. And
Yeah.
if look at a young child, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old,
Mhm.
they don't have the mental capacity to go, oh, my parents aren't showing up because they're terrible at time management and they just say yes to too much. And we go, oh, it's me. There's something wrong with me. And that's such a common belief. There's something
Mhm.
wrong with me. And if you listen to the way that parents speak to children, they're like, what's wrong with you? Okay,
Yeah.
child, there's something wrong with me. Not my parents never went to parenting school, or my parents have anger issues, or my dad's an alcoholic. We go, oh, it's my fault. It's me. And just like you said with your dance teacher, and that's a perfect example of where and how beliefs are formed. It's not, I'm so good that they're being critical because they want me to be amazing and to fulfill my potential. We go, yeah, I'm just not good enough. That's why I'm being criticized.
Mhm.
Kids come home with a B, and why isn't it an A?
Yeah.
Oh, you cleaned your room, but what about your closet? Oh, you washed the dishes, but you forgot to empty the food out of the drain. Instead of just great job. And how about this other thing? Or this is amazing, and you can do this to improve it and make it better. That's not how we speak to children. And my mom's done this, worked with people with this process for 35 years, and her biggest passion is parenting and teaching parenting, because she realizes that the way that parents speak to children helps to form the beliefs that determine their lives, because it's not so much the events, it's the meaning we give to those events.
Yeah.
So if you parent your child in a way that you can be supportive and give them positive beliefs, it's going to just affect their whole life. And I think with women, there's so many beliefs that were given from our parents, from the culture, media, magazines, movies, just all of it. You know, you're supposed to be this, it's supposed to look like this, you're supposed to, you know, all these things. And we just believe that, and we take it on, and we try and live this life that's really just not possible. And I was talking to my sister about it, and she was like, as women, we have so much to unlearn. I really liked how she said that. And that's one of the things for me was I eliminated a few beliefs about weight. And, you know, I think I had the belief if I'm not skinny, or if I don't have a perfect body, people won't like me, or they'll judge me, or, you know, something. And this is exactly an example. When you eliminate the belief, it's so gone, you can't even remember what it was that you lived with for 40 years.
Yep.
But I eliminated a few about fat and body image. And my world changed so dramatically. It was like every time I would walk past a mirror, it was like, oh, you know, your stomach's not fit enough. You don't have an 8-pack, and might be flat, but it's soft. And your arms are strong, but they're not defined. And you have this thing hanging, and these scars on your face from ocean accidents. And like, that's what I saw. And I gave it so much energy, so much of my brain power went to that. And it was exhausting. And I was like, I could be using this energy and brain power for so many amazing things. Instead of just being like, I should eat that, I shouldn't eat that, and I had that, but I worked out this much, and this and this, and it was like so ridiculous. And I did a couple of sessions. I trained with my mentor, which is amazing. And it just shifted. It just fell away. I just stopped caring. I stopped thinking about it. It like changed my whole reality. And a lot of that for women, we just have this and I rebel against that also. Like, I don't wear makeup, and I'm not on social media, and I don't take selfies. Like, I live what feels right to me and my son, and I live authentically. And because I'm supposed to be a certain way or look a certain way, if I want to do that, I will. I won't let standards stop me. It's so much freedom.
Because you found your authentic self and you're comfortable. You know, that was me too. For so long, I lived in this wretched neighborhood that it had to be perfect. Everything had to be perfect. And we built the house, and it was this beautiful house. And then oh my gosh, I divorced my husband. And now that whole neighborhood is so screwed up there. I mean, everyone's divorcing everyone, their kids are doing everything. And I mean, it's very interesting to watch, because I grew up, yes, there's a cookie cutter way to do things. This is how you grow up. And when your kids actually choose a different path, it's like, oh my gosh, no, that's wrong. And what I realized is my way is not always the right way. For me, it was, but I took a long time to get where I am, and I'm finally happy, like you said. And I don't care. I don't try to live my life to please somebody else, because what I realized, it was about 5 years ago, the journey, that you have no control over anybody else but yourself. And so what you might do today could upset somebody tomorrow, and you didn't change. It's just their perception. My husband, he came home yesterday and I was grumpy. And so I think it's because I had to go to work, and it's so hard right now. And I was taking it out on him. So it's like, why don't you take the girls and you go watch a movie and go to the movie theater and have fun? Because I got to go back to work. But I needed that time. And I think that if we can realize and focus and identify like you talk about what's holding us back, what's bothering us has nothing to do with my husband. So he doesn't need to be the brunt of that. And so finding your peace and your happiness, and it's a journey. It's a tough journey. It's not always downhill. It's a very hilly road that you constantly go on.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the belief stuff really helps. There's some other tricks that I teach my clients about giving meaning to certain situations and how it's the meaning we give to those situations
Right.
that produce the emotions. And just like your husband could have come home and been like, "Oh gosh, my wife's cranky. She's mad at me. What did I do? I did something wrong. She's upset with me," and he could go into a whole tailspin. But realizing, wait, maybe that doesn't have anything
Yeah.
to do with me. And maybe even if she is upset with me, it doesn't mean I did anything wrong. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with me.
Right.
Maybe I did something that felt good to me and she misinterpreted or she got triggered, and that doesn't have anything to do with me. And we always walk around taking things personally. You go out and you see a friend in the grocery store and she doesn't smile at you. And you go, "Oh God." And then you're in a bad mood. She's mad at me. She's upset. What did I do? And it totally changes how you're feeling. And if you can catch yourself in that moment and go, "Wait a minute, maybe she has a headache. Maybe she's not smiling at anybody.
Yeah.
Maybe her dog died. Maybe she's fighting with her husband. Maybe she just got terrible news on the phone. Maybe she didn't see me. Maybe I was scowling and she thought that I was in a bad mood. And so she would give me space and leave me alone because she loves me. And so she's just giving me space. It doesn't mean anything. We don't know anything for sure, but we're meaning making machines and we constantly give meaning to everything. And the meaning we give the events produces the emotion.
I
Right?
love
Even
that.
even going to work, right? You could, and it's always easier said than done, but sometimes even something like that where you're like, wow, I'm so lucky to have this job right now that's allowing me to do the things I want to do, live where I live, take my daughters to the movies, right? Like, oh, I get to wash dishes because I got to eat food in my house, in my kitchen, safe with my family. Like, what a luxury. I have dishes to wash. I get to go grocery shopping and pick what I want to buy to feed myself and my family because I'm able to do that, because I have the money to do that, because I have a refrigerator. Like, I get to go get gas because I have a car to drive. And that's amazing. And it's these little things, switching to gratitude or just giving it a different meaning. Man, I'm really not happy in my job right now. What an amazing opportunity to look at what comes next. That's so exciting.
Yeah.
If I'm not happy here, what can I do from here?
And I love the gratitude that you brought up because it really does change your mind when you start to think, okay, let's get back to the basics. No, I love that. So I want you to think about, because I think this one kind of resonates, where your parents even taught this method and yet you shunned it for years and then thought, oh, okay, I guess there's some truth to this. And you came back. So imagine your 19-year-old self. And I'm going to kind of twist this because, and you can do either one, but you're a mom as well. And so if your 19-year-old self, you're talking to her, either what advice would you give her, or what advice would you give a new mom starting out now that you've kind of been a mom for a while and you've seen things change?
So I would give myself zero advice because I had to do everything I did to get where I'm at now.
Okay.
And everything I did led me here. And I'm so happy to be here that like I had to make all those mistakes and I had to do all those things or I wouldn't be here. Um, as far as a new mom, I would say work on yourself. Because if you don't work on yourself, you're going to pass all your crap down to your kid. And kids are going to be kids. And when we expect our children, when we have unreasonable expectations for our children, we're going to be disappointed and upset, and they're not doing anything wrong. Kids are going to break things. They're going to cry. They're going to be unreasonable. They're not going to listen. They're not going to always do what you tell them. They're going to make messes. They're not going to want to go to bed. They're not going to want to take baths. And that's okay because that's how kids are. And when you expect them to be different, you're going to be upset. You're going to be disappointed. You're going to get triggered and feel powerless. And when people feel powerless, they get angry. So you're going to get angry at your kids for being kids. And unless you work on the stuff that triggers you, if you get rid of the I'm powerless, or children should be seen and not heard, or children should listen, or right, any of these beliefs, you're able to come and meet your child where they are. Hey, I know you really don't want to take a bath. I got it. Bath time's not fun. How can we make it fun? What can we bring in the bath? Do you want to take measuring cups? Do you want to take a bubble bath? Do you want me to read to you while you're in the bath? Do you want to make a soap monster? Like, what can we do to make this more fun? Or how about if you take a bath and you get to pick what books we read? Or, you know what I mean? Like, engage with your children, communicate with them. And if it's just do what I say, you're going to get mad when they don't. So working on yourself is just like, it gives you more patience and more space to show up for your children in a way that works for everybody.
That is some of the best advice that we've had. So thank you. All right, last question. If somebody or one of our listeners says, okay, I need some help, how do they find you or find out more information from you?
So my website is blakelefkoe.com. That's BLAKE LEF as in Frank KOE.com. And my email is the same name at Gmail. For my email, for the website, there's a link to schedule a free 15-minute consultation. Normally goes 30 minutes. If you want to ask more questions, if there's anything you want to know, I'm happy to, sit down with anybody that's curious or stuck. You want to shoot me an email, you're welcome to. Like I said, I'm not on social media, even though everyone thinks I'm crazy. I don't like it.
Good for you. Good for you. It causes anxiety to many people, so I totally understand.
But yeah, shoot me an email, schedule a consultation, and this work can really, really change your life. It's really profound stuff. And I talked about the belief process, but there are a few other really neat processes that we do. And one of them is like a stimulus trigger. So like every time I'm criticized, I get angry. Every time I see a dog, I get scared. And it's such a simple process, and it breaks that connection, and you literally nullify the trigger. And that's so powerful as well. So yeah, reach out. I'm happy to talk to everybody.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for coming on, and kudos to you for embracing the work and teaching it and passing it on. So thank you.
You're so welcome.
And moms, get unstuck. If you're really struggling or if you're having a hard time, then please reach out to Blake and see what you can do to get some help. And if you feel like this has been a good episode, then share it, like, subscribe, and you go out and make it a great day. Beautiful moms, remember, you are unbreakable. Keep illuminating the world with your strength, pursuing your dreams, and reveling in the splendor of motherhood. This is Charisse Walker, bidding you farewell for now. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations on the next episode of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. Until then, keep shining bright. Signing off with love, Charisse Walker.